Hi, my name's Jake. I make Pathfinder 2 videos on classes, ancestries, and introductory concepts for people migrating like coconuts from D&D to PF2. That's what it's properly called, so you know you should be inducted into the society correctly. It's called PF2. Everybody calls it that. So, today we're going to be continuing our archetype series with the Dual-Weapon Warrior, the Duelist, and the Eldritch Archer. Not Arcane Archer, Eldritch Archer. It's basically the same thing. Let's go. The Dual-Weapon Warrior. I wish you automatically looked like that panther person on the screen, but you don't. So, Dual-Weapon Warrior, this is the archetype that is supposedly set up so that you're able to dual wield in a system that can already do that with feats. So let's see what it can add. So the Dual Weapon Warrior dedication gives you the Double Slice fighter feat. It allows you to attack once with 2 weapons, melee only. It doesn't do anything for fighters because they already have access to it. They could have just taken that, but it does start you on this journey, and if you're going to try to wield 2 weapons at once, that's what you gotta take at some point. So it's useful for people who aren't fighters, like gunslingers. That's a theme I'm gonna come back to over and over again. The Dual Thrower feat at 4th level allows you to use your Double Slice feat on thrown weapons, one-handed thrown weapons, and one-handed ranged weapons, if you have one in each hand. So that includes a lot of weapons at this point. I mean, yeah, the repeating crossbow, or the handheld repeating crossbow. And lots of guns. The air repeater comes to mind. Yes, this actually allows you to fire 2 guns. It's the only way to do it that I know of without huge penalties. And if one of them is agile, then you have no penalties. If you don't have an agile weapon in your offhand, then you have a -2. It's still a great option. The thing to keep in mind moving forward with the Dual Thrower is that it only applies the Double Slice strike specifically. It just expands it to be 2 thrown one-handed weapons or 2 one-handed ranged weapons. So not everything in this archetype will be usable on pistols, for example. So moving on to Dual Weapon Reload, also level 4. It allows you to reload a weapon while you're holding 2 weapons. I guess, like, I don't know. It's not even specific. Like, you somehow cock the hammer back and you load it with your teeth. I don't know. It says you carry your ammunition in a way that allows you to reload while holding 2 weapons. So you still have to take an action to reload each one. This doesn't really add a lot. I totally wouldn't take it. I would just go with Dual Thrower at 4th level. And maybe a Gunslinger feat. Moving on to level 8 is Flensing Slice. Flensing something means to remove its skin or remove its skin and fat. So you rip apart your enemy. That's kind of cool. It says when you hit with both attacks with Double Slice, so it can always also be the ranged weapons, you flens the target, making it bleed and creating a weak spot. So this makes them count as flat-footed until the beginning of your next turn, and if they had any physical damage resistance, you reduce that resistance by 5, so like golems and stuff. And they also take d8s of persistent bleed damage equal to the number of damage dice your weapon has. The maximum is 4d8 for a major striking weapon. So you hit with both guns or crossbows or daggers, whatever, and they bleed, they're flat-footed, and their physical resistance is lowered. So this mostly helps out the rest of your party, but you also make them bleed, and it's fun to, like, say that you shot off part of their skin. Let's move on to Dual-Weapon Blitz. It's a 2-action activity. It's a level 10 feat. This allows you to spend 2 actions moving your speed once and then attacking twice. The thing that's kind of special about this that most other movement attack combination feats don't have is that this allows you to make the strikes at any point along your movement. So you can move 5 feet, hit someone, move another 10 feet, hit someone, and then move the last 10 feet of your movement, assuming you have 25-foot movement speed. I love that look. It's like you're dancing through a line of enemies, a conga line of death. It's useful, and if you're going to be taking dual weapons, you kind of want to take that because it saves you an action in combat. And frankly, it just feels really cool to hit an enemy, move out of range of them, hit another enemy, and move out of range of them too. It's like you can't be touched. Dual Onslaught at level 14 is a feat that allows you to count one of your weapons as hitting, even if you attack with both and they both miss. So it's just like, you're so practiced at it that you're guaranteed to hit once out of the 2 hits. It's good if you're trying to keep up like consistent damage, but if you're going for like big crit burst damage, it's definitely not essential. And there are other better level 14 feats that you can take for a Dual-Weapon Wielder. So overall, the Dual-Weapon Warrior does things better than other game systems that I've seen. I really appreciate that it allows you to use dual weapon wielding with thrown weapons, like almost right off the bat. That's a nice option, and other game systems, even D&D 3rd edition, didn't allow that very easily. Cool, it's a good archetype. I like it. And now moving on to the Duelist. First of all, let me say, I love the idea. Like, this is what I picture a swashbuckler looking like. Like, this seems like, and this archetype is sort of built with that fighting style in mind, and if you are a swashbuckler and you take this, there's a lot of synergy. You can get some of these feats as a swashbuckler at lower levels, so you could use some of these abilities better if you're a swashbuckler and a duelist, but we'll get into that in more detail. Duelist dedication at level 2. It gives you the quick draw ranger feat. It's always great for anyone to take. So you can attack and draw your weapon on the first round of combat, or the first time you want to attack in combat. It doesn't have to be the first round. If you're like a really lazy duelist, you just wait in the back and then charge forward so you can get the glory. Killing hit. It's all about that kill steal. Duelist's Challenge is the level 4 feat. You can choose one enemy, and anytime you hit that enemy using a single one-handed melee weapon while your other hand or hands are free, you get a circumstance bonus to the strike's damage equal to the number of damage dice your weapon deals, which is, again, +4 in the end. That minor static bonus is useful. Is it worth a level 4 feat? I don't know. I like more fun weirdness with my level 4 feats. It's better consistent damage, like the level 14 Dual Wielder Warrior feat. You could take it. It doesn't hurt. Except this part. If you attack a creature other than your dueling opponent, you take a circumstance penalty to damage equal to the number of damage dice your weapon deals. So you suck with everyone else except that one person that you deal 2 extra damage to. Yeah! That's a 4th level feat. Moving on. Level 8 feat, Selfless Parry. This is pretty cool. So you have to already have the Dueling Parry feat, which you can take at level 4 with this archetype, because it gives you access to more feats, because it's an archetype. So Selfless Parry, it allows you to give your Dueling Parry bonus to your allies that are near you as well, only +1. But if you have Dealing Riposte, you can use it if the enemy critically fails on a strike against your allies that are around you. So it's not so much a selfless parry, it's a selfish, I stab your enemy. It is fun though, it's totally fun in combat. Student of the Dueling Arts, level 12 archetype feat. It allows you to, it allows 2 different things. But one is based on the other. So what it allows you to do is you can give up At the beginning of your day, you can give up one of the feats that you can choose as part of this archetype. So it includes all of those I went over, plus the additional feats, for another one of the archetype's feats or these additional feats. You still have to qualify for it, so you can't take things that are higher level than you, and so on. There is a caveat with that, and that is, unfortunately, where this gets kind of crappy. You can't trade out the Duelist Dedication feat, the thing that you took at 2nd level to get into this archetype. You also can't trade out the Student of the Dueling Arts, the level 12 archetype feat. Because, I mean, it makes sense. You wouldn't be able to trade things out if you didn't have that one, giving you the ability to trade things out. But that means that you have to sink multiple feats into this in order to make it better. I would really only choose this if I was totally just focusing on that swashbuckling duelist kind of fighting flair. I'd probably do it as a swashbuckler, but nobody else, because it's how the swashbuckler fights anyway. And this doesn't give you any panache, and the panache that the swashbuckler gets works really well with the duelist. So if you're going to be going the one-handed melee weapon, dashing, roguish, swashbuckling duelist, then yes, the 12th level feat is worth taking. Just plan carefully for it, because you might end up screwing yourself and asking your GM, can I retrain Disarming Twist, because I didn't realize I don't care about disarming people. Not that that would ever happen. The other thing that it does is you can enter a stance from a Duelist Archetype feat you don't have, including any of them that are under the additional feats. So you don't have to swap anything out for that, you just gain access to any of the stances, like the disarming stance. So you can choose to enter it. It takes an extra action, but so what? You have access to other feats that you can take and you don't have to spend feats on. And feats are precious. They are gold. Yeah, they're not as powerful as in D&D, and they're not complete BS, but they matter a lot. They're what makes your character. So the level 12 ability is cool for the stance dancing. That's mostly it. Unless you're a swashbuckler, then yes, just go whole ass into the archetype, and it can work really well for you. I would ask my GM, however, if you would just ignore half of the Duelist Dedication, the Duelist Challenge, and not give me a penalty for hitting other people. Eldritch Archer. The Eldritch Archer is all about magic arrows. The Eldritch Archer dedication starts at level 6, which is pretty high for an archetype, but it does so much. When you take the dedication, you can choose a spell list and a cantrip from that spell list if you don't already cast spells. Either way, you can add the effects of a spell to an arrow that you fire. You are essentially doing them both at the same time, but you only roll to hit once, and the arrow and the spell damage happens at the same time. So they get added together for any resistances, that kind of thing. The restriction, however, is that you have to choose a spell that has an attack roll of some sort. A spell ranged attack or spell melee attack. So if you're taking this at low levels, you're probably just going to be doing a little bit of cold damage with Ray of Frost. So at this level, it does 3d4 plus your related ability modifier. So you're probably adding 3d4 plus 4 to your arrow, even if it's only like 1d8. So it's adding a lot of damage right up front. It doesn't have to be a cantrip. It can be a single or 2 action spell that you add to the arrow as you fire it. No matter what, it takes 3 actions to do an Eldritch shot. So may as well add the coolest spell you can. The level 8 feat, Basic Eldritch Archer Spellcasting. If you are already a spellcaster, this won't mean anything to you. If you are not a spellcaster, then you'll need to take this in order to continue advancing your spellcasting ability to add damage and powers to your arrows. So as you can see on your screen, taking this means that you have access to first level spells right away. And once you would reach 12th level, you would have access to 4th level spells, but you don't unless you take Expert Spellcasting. So right now when you take it, it gives you 2 cantrips and 1 first level spell per day. Eventually that's up to 2 first, 1 second, and 1 third, and then you take Expert Spellcasting to continue. Enchanting Arrow is another level 8 feat option. It's a 2 action activity. You fire an arrow at an enemy and it does an additional 2d6 mental damage. If you also critically hit, then they are also stunned 1, so they lose the next action they would take. And the mental damage increases to 3d6 if you have a greater striking rune, or 46 if you have a major striking rune on your bow. So this Enchanting Arrow can be added onto the Eldritch Shot. There are certain abilities here that combo with each other and certain ones that are exclusive, so those two can combine with each other. Magic Arrow at level 8 is another one that can be added to any ability, so you could actually use Magic Arrow and Enchanting Arrow and then wait till next round to do the Eldritch Shot with that combo, or just the Magic Arrow and the Eldritch Shot. So Magic Arrow, level 8 feat. It's a free action. What this does is kind of complicated and you have to set it up ahead of time. But you can choose 3 types of common magical ammunition of 4th level or lower. It says specifically from the Core Rulebook, but that's just because then it gives your GM an excuse to say, no, you can't use those other books because I don't know them or they might be overpowered. When using this ability, you transform a non-magical arrow or bolt into a piece of ammunition of the type that you chose. So you can take the ability of something that isn't normally an arrow, like a claiming bolt, and you can apply the magicalness of it to your arrow that you fire. You can choose the feat multiple times and get multiple magic ammunition types that you can use with your bow. I'm going to go over a couple of options here. The lowest level magical ammunition type that you can get is also rare, so you'd probably have to clear this with your GM. But it's the tripline arrow, which if you're able to apply the critical specialization of the bow that you're using, which you will because you're an Eldritch Archer, then you can knock your enemy prone on a critical hit. Or if you can't apply that specialization, then you can roll a trip attack. That's cool at range. Normally that's like a bola thing. So it's cool that you can do this just at will. I love that you can just keep changing the special effects you have on your arrows. And that brings me to the Viper Arrow. It's level 4. It's not rare or uncommon or anything. If you hit your enemy with it, they suffer the effects of the Viper's poison. So they're taking persistent poison damage. Awesome. It also summons a snake next to them, and it lasts for a minute. So you can keep firing this every round if you want. So you just get like a pile of snakes. And they'll keep attacking your enemy for you. They might never hit, or if they do, they'll give extra poison damage. It's great. Or you can choose an Antler Arrow. It's a level 2 item. It's not uncommon or rare or anything. If you hit your enemy with this arrow, bone antlers extend and pin it to the ground. They have to make a reflex save. That one's fun. Also, there's the Sleep Arrow. It's a level 3 item. You just hit them with the arrow, doesn't do any damage, and you can put them to sleep. Nice if you have an ally that's pissing you off. Harpoon Bolt is the other most useful one that I have found. I am level 4. It's uncommon. The Harpoon Bolt, well in this case, Harpoon Arrow, hits your enemy and lodges in them. If they try to take it out and fail, they take extra piercing damage because they stab themselves on your arrow. You can also, they can't move further away than 50 feet from you because there's a spool of line attached to you from the arrow. And if you want to, you can try to trip them. It's great! This with bounty hunters, oh, that'd be fun. Precious Arrow at level 8. It's, in some campaigns, absolutely necessary. In other campaigns, you can just have a few arrows that already have this physically attached to them, so you don't need to take the feat. But if you want to, you can spend an action and then fire an arrow to make it count as either cold iron or silver. And at 14th level, you can choose adamantine. It's useful for hitting creatures that it comes up for, but it's not going to happen in every campaign. So, talk to your GM, ask if it's going to be useful, or maybe you just have 3 cold iron arrows. Probably not an essential feat. Expert Eldritch Archer Spellcasting, level 12 feat. As I said before, it gives you access to spells that are from 4th level to 6th level. And then you'd have to take another feat to gain more levels of spells beyond that. This archetype really does work best if you are already a spellcaster. At the end, I'm going to give you my suggestions on what spell list to take and what spells within that spell list to take, because there are lots of options, and I just want to make it easy if I can. Level 14, Seek Arrow takes an action to allow your next strike to ignore all cover and concealment that your enemy has. You do have to be able to see them first, which is really interesting. This ability, obviously it's really cool. It's useful. In the right circumstances, it's amazing. Seeker Arrow is mutually exclusive with Enchanting Arrow at level 8. You can only use one or the other, because they both say, make a bow strike. Phase Arrow at level 16. This is another mutually exclusive attack. Phase Arrow takes 1 action. If you are able to detect an enemy, even if they're invisible, you can fire a Phase Arrow at them. The Phase Arrow travels through any non-magical barriers or walls, ignores cover, concealment, the hidden condition, and shield bonuses that are not magical. Also, if anybody is wearing armor, magical or not, the arrow gets +4 to hit them. It's like armor encourages it. If the opponent that is hit by this doesn't have a magical shield, then them making the shield block action or reaction doesn't do anything. This is so cool. This is awesome. It's really useful. I've had something similar in 3rd edition. This can be absolute BS. And, well, you might want to warn your GM ahead of time in an adventure that you're going to take this, because, this can completely ruin the last bad guy of the adventure. This is really powerful. It's a great feat. Take this feat. The Arrow of Death. I love this one. Okay, so it's a 3-action activity. I hit the microphone. It's a level 18 feat. You modify an arrow or bolt to bring death to your target in a single potent hit. It's also mutually exclusive, but it doesn't matter. This is the best one. So if you hit an enemy with your bow, well, with the arrow from the bow, not smack. Anyway, it does an extra 10d10 precision damage, just if it hits. On a critical hit, of course, you double the precision damage on the other damage, so you're doing at least 20d10. And on a critical hit, they have to succeed at a fortitude saving throw against your class DC or spell DC, whichever is higher, or immediately die. It has the death trait and the incapacitation trait, so some creatures are going to be immune to this. However, if a creature is not immune to death effects, and they are higher level than you, so normally the incapacitation trait would come into effect, and their saving throw would become 1 level greater than it was. They don't have to critically fail to die from this. They just have to normal fail. So this is a lot more likely to kill someone than the assassins assassinate. The Eldritch Archer is an assassinator. Yes, ranged death. This is great. Hi, Jake here. Cutting in for a moment, I want to clarify something. When you critically hit a target, that target has to roll the fortitude save. If they critically fail, because of the incapacitation trait, assuming they're a higher level than you, their save gets counted as 1 better, so it's a failure. They still die on a failure, but if they originally roll a failure, it gets improved to a success. So they do actually have to roll the original critical failure. I was comparing this to the assassin in my head, and if the assassin hits someone in the same situation and they critically fail, then it doesn't kill them, because the power says that they have to critically fail. and the result gets turned into a failure on a critical fail. So it's still better than the assassin. I just wasn't really clear on how the saves work. Thank you. Proceed. And Master Eldritch Archer Spellcasting, level 18 feet, gives you access to 7th and 8th level spells. Again, if you're a spellcaster and you take this, that part doesn't matter. But if you're a spellcaster, it might be kind of hard to get into this because it has the prerequisite of you have to be an expert in at least one type of bow. So finagle that, and you are the best Eldritch Archer there could be. Alright, if you're choosing a spell list from this, either because you're not a spellcaster, or you're making your character with the intention of going into Eldritch Archer, and you know that your party is going to hit at least level 6, then I would choose the Primal spell list. However you need to choose that. Because the Primal spell list has a whole lot of spell attack roll options to add onto your arrows. And Organ Sight, which I freaking love. So it lasts for a minute, and you can make either a medicine check or a lore of that particular kind of monster to know vital weak points, because suddenly their skin is transparent, and you see all of their muscles pulled aside so you can see their organs. Anytime that you succeed on that check, you add 4d6 precision damage, and you can do it once per turn. So that couples quite well with any of the other abilities we've talked about in the archetype, plus spells like Moonlight Ray or Scorching Ray. If you're going Eldritch Archer, you gotta go Primal spell list. These are some amazing spells, plus, of course, low-level spells like Snowball or Shocking Grasp or Scorching Ray. That's not that low level, but whatever. I think you'd be a fool not to choose Primal. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. Do what you want. And of course, Briny Bolt and Acid Arrow are always nice on an archer build. Those are also primal. And that is all of the Eldritch Archer, and so all of the archetypes we're going to peruse today. If you want to check out my website, it's in the description, or Patreon. Yes, we have a Patreon. There's also a coffee if you feel like giving a donation, because that would help the channel out. I also want to say that I appreciate all of the info and feedback that you guys have been giving me in the comments and in the responses to the community posts. Thank you. It's encouraging. New to this format, so I appreciate the tips and directions and you telling me when something's wrong. Like a loot. And if you liked this video, hit the thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give me a thumbs down. And if you have a moment, put a comment in to let me know why it was a thumbs down or what you think I could have done differently about this, or if I got anything wrong. We're working on this together. Thank you for joining me, my friends. Until next time, be as weird as you possibly can.